In the village of Umudim, dawn crept over the red clay roofs like a tired mother folding clothes. Birds chirped above the mango trees, and the scent of firewood smoke rose gently from early morning fires. Among the villagers, there was one girl no one could ignore, Nnenna, the girl with the torn wrapper. At only 17, she was known more for the strange silence that followed her than for her beauty. Her wrapper, always tied tightly around her waist, seemed older than time, patched with pieces of cloth from places no one recognized. Children whispered that the wrapper held secrets, that if you touched it, you'd hear voices that didn't belong to this world. Adults dismissed it as childish talk, though none of them dared stare too long at Nnenna's back. Her aunt, Mama Uduak, said it was just cloth, but her eyes flickered with unease whenever Nnenna walked past. Even the village elders avoided calling on her, though they claimed to know everything that moved beneath the sun. Nnenna had never known her parents. Her mother had died giving birth, and her father was said to have vanished in the forest before she could walk. Raised in her aunt's house with little affection, she learned to keep her thoughts buried and her emotions wrapped as tightly as the cloth that clung to her. But one morning, after fetching water from the stream, a strange thing happened. As Nnenna bent to lift her clay pot, she heard a whisper, not from a person, but from the wrapper around her waist. "Nwam, the time is near." She froze. Her heart thumped like the village drum at festival. Who had spoken, and why did the voice sound like it had traveled from the grave? Nnenna stumbled back, nearly dropping her water pot. Her eyes darted around the empty bush path. Nothing. No one. Only the wind rustling banana leaves and the distant cluck of fowls. She pressed her hand against the wrapper, now suddenly cold against her skin, and whispered, "Who are you?" But silence returned like a slammed door. She walked faster than usual, her heart still galloping. The voice had sounded like a woman's, tired, loving, familiar. Could it be her mother? No, that was foolish. But the village stories, they always warned of ancestral spirits and unfinished destinies. Maybe, just maybe, there was truth in the whispers children spoke of in hushed tones. At home, Mama Uduak eyed her with suspicion. "You dey shake? Stream get ghost?" she scoffed. Nnenna said nothing, tying the wrapper tighter. That night, as the moonlight streamed through the thatched roof and painted silver lines across the mud floor, she couldn't sleep. Her ears strained in the dark, her body alert for another whisper. Then, as the night grew deeper, it came again. This time clearer. "Seek the stool, beneath the silk tree. Your beginning is buried where roots drink blood." Nnenna gasped, covering her mouth. The silk tree stood near the old shrine no one visited anymore. It had been abandoned after a priestess vanished years ago. Why would her wrapper lead her there? And what did it mean? Beginning? She lay awake until the first cock crowed, knowing her life had changed. Something ancient had awakened, and it had chosen her. By sunrise, Nnenna had made up her mind. She would go to the silk tree. If there were answers to her parents, her past, her true self, they were buried there. She waited until the village was busy with market noise, then slipped away with a small basket and the wrapper tightly secured. The path to the old shrine was overgrown. No one cleared it anymore, fearing curses and wandering spirits. Yet Nnenna pressed on, guided not just by the voice, but by a strange sense of purpose. The air grew colder near the silk tree. The wind carried whispers she could almost understand, but not quite. She knelt, digging gently at the base of the tree, brushing away decades of fallen leaves. Her fingers struck something hard, a carved wooden stool wrapped in red cloth and sealed with cowrie shells. As soon as she touched it, a surge of heat pulsed through her fingers. The wrapper tightened on her waist like a living thing. Her vision blurred. In a flash, she saw a woman, beautiful, regal, draped in coral beads. She stood on the stool, addressing a crowd of worshippers. Behind her, drums beat. Her voice rang like thunder. "No one shall inherit unless the bloodline is awakened." Then, darkness. Nnenna blinked. Back beneath the tree, breathless, the stool still sat in her hand. She wasn't crazy. She had seen something, someone, and deep inside, a truth began to rise. Her mother had been more than just a village woman. She had been a priestess. And Nnenna was next in line. Nnenna didn't return home immediately. She sat beside the tree, stool in her lap, wrapper tight, mind racing. If her mother had been a priestess, why had no one told her? Why had Mama Uduak hidden it? The village's silence now seemed deliberate, calculated. They had buried her heritage like a secret too dangerous to speak aloud. Suddenly she heard movement, crunching twigs. She turned quickly. An old man emerged from the shadows, his eyes milky white, yet sharp. He leaned on a crooked staff made from ebony wood. "I wondered when you'd come," he said in a gravelly voice. "Who are you?" Nnenna asked, clutching the stool. "I am Ogbifi, keeper of bones. I served your mother when she sat on that stool. You are her daughter. The wrapper you wear, do you know what it holds?" She shook her head. "It carries whispers of the dead. Your mother trapped their voices to protect you, but now they stir. The stool has awakened the binding. If you do not learn your rights, they will consume you." Nnenna's hands trembled. The mystery deepened with every answer. Ogbifi gestured for her to follow. "Come, there's more you must see. If you're truly your mother's daughter, you must remember what she died for." As Nnenna rose and followed him, the whispering in her wrapper grew louder, like a crowd waiting for her to speak. The path. Ogbifi led her through twisted behind abandoned yam fields and an overgrown compound fenced with rusted zinc sheets. At the edge of a dried-up riverbed, they arrived at a circular clearing surrounded by stones carved with symbols. At its center stood a shrine, small, cracked, but still pulsing with energy. "This," Ogbifi said, "is where your mother made her vows and where your enemies destroyed her." Nnenna stepped inside. It smelled of earth and ashes. Symbols on the walls glowed faintly as she passed. The wrapper around her waist fluttered on its own. The spirits inside were waking up, stirred by her presence. "She was betrayed," Ogbifi continued. "One of the village elders feared her power. They conspired with your father's cousin, poisoned her during her final rite. But your mother bound her gifts into you, into that wrapper. Before her spirit fled, tears welled in Nnenna's eyes. She had always believed she was unloved, forgotten. But here, in this forgotten place, she felt embraced by the past. The voices inside her wrapper were not curses. They were guides. "What do I do now?" she asked. "You must finish what she started," Ogbifi said. "Awaken the bloodline. But be warned, those who silenced your mother still hold power. If they find out you know, they will strike again." Nnenna nodded slowly. For the first time in her life, her silence had purpose. She was not just a poor girl with a torn wrapper. She was a priestess in waiting, and the voices beneath her wrapper had only just begun to speak. When Nnenna returned home, the sun was already sinking, casting long shadows across the compound. Mama Uduak stood by the fire stirring a pot of ogbono soup. Her sharp eyes immediately caught the disturbed look on Nnenna's face. "Where are you since morning?" she asked, voice firm. "I went to the stream and took the long road," Nnenna replied carefully. Mama Uduak narrowed her eyes. "You passed Shrine Road?" Nnenna hesitated. "No, Mom." But Mama Uduak wasn't fooled. "You say I know no? That wrapper on your waist is waking things that should sleep. Your mother's path is not one you should follow." Nnenna stared at her, heart pounding. "You knew?" "I was there when she bled her last," Mama Uduak said coldly. "I told her to leave it all behind, but she chose fire, and now it is returning to burn you." Nnenna didn't sleep that night. The wrapper tightened like a warning. The voices inside whispered of betrayal and survival. If Mama Uduak was hiding things, then danger was closer than she thought. And if she was going to claim her birthright, she could no longer be timid. She had to prepare, because even in her own house, she was no longer safe. At dawn, Nnenna returned to the shrine. Ogbifi waited for her with a wooden box wrapped in red cloth. He placed it gently in her hands. "Inside is the Book of Names," he said. "Every priestess must learn the lineage of those who came before." Nnenna unwrapped it carefully. The book was old, pages of goatskin, ink faded but still legible. Each page bore the name of a woman. A priestess, her clan, her powers, and how she died. As she flipped through, one name caught her breath. Ugama, seer of waters. Her mother. Her mother had the gift of sight, visions and dreams in water, and beneath her name, in red ink, it read, poisoned during ascension. Bloodline interrupted. Ogbuefi placed a hand on her shoulder. You are the continuation, but first you must learn the names. Call them during ritual, and they will answer. Nnenna took the book home, hiding it beneath her mat. That night, when the village lights dimmed and owls hooted in the distance, she whispered the names under her breath. One by one, they responded in dreams, women in white circling her, humming old songs. She was no longer alone. The next day, the village square buzzed with talk. Chickens clucked, market stalls brimmed with yam and spices, but beneath it all, whispers floated like smoke. Someone had been seen near the silk tree. Someone had entered the shrine. Chief Okori, the oldest elder, called a sudden gathering. The villagers watched as he stood tall with his staff, flanked by the council. His voice rang out, "Who walks the path of fire? Who dares awaken what should be forgotten?" Mama Uduak stood at the back, arms crossed. Her silence was loud. Nnenna stood hidden behind the palm trees, heart racing. She knew this was about her. The elders feared what her return meant, and yet it was they who buried the truth. That night, as the village slept, a group of masked men surrounded Ogbuefi's hut, but the keeper of bones was waiting. The air shimmered, and the shadows retreated, their masks cracking from invisible strikes. One of them dropped a cloth, an elder's wrapper. In the morning, Ogbuefi told Nnenna, "They are watching, and they are afraid. Good, let them tremble." Nnenna nodded, feeling the stir of ancient strength deep in her belly. The river in Umudim had dried for 3 seasons, angering farmers and confusing elders. The shrine priest claimed it was punishment for the village's sins. But Ogbuefi told Nnenna otherwise. Your mother sealed part of her soul in that river. It weeps because it remembers. Together they went to the riverbed, Nnenna holding the book of names and wearing the stool around her waist like a crown of inheritance. Ogbuefi chanted. Nnenna followed, speaking each name aloud as she walked through the cracked mud. When she reached the center, she poured water from a calabash onto the soil. The ground rumbled, birds scattered. Then slowly, water trickled from the stones, then surged until the entire bed was full. The villagers ran to see it. Some fell to their knees, crying. Others whispered, "She has returned." But the elders frowned, knowing a storm was brewing. The girl with the torn wrapper had done what their priest could not, and with the river's return, the whispers beneath her wrapper grew louder, stronger. That night, Nnenna saw a vision, her mother standing in the river, beckoning her forward with a glowing gourd in hand. Nnenna followed the vision at dawn. Dressed in a new white wrapper, she approached the river alone. The gourd from her dream floated gently on the water's surface. As she stepped in, the water parted before her feet. She lifted the gourd. Instantly, memories not her own flooded her mind. Visions of her mother healing the sick, casting truth spells, confronting corrupt chiefs. One memory lingered, a forbidden meeting with Chief Okori. He had knelt before Ugoma, offering her a golden ring and begging her to abandon the priesthood and marry him. She had refused, and shortly after, she was poisoned. Nnenna stumbled back, weeping. Now it made sense. The chief's hatred, the secrecy, the attempted erasure of her bloodline. It had all stemmed from love turned bitter. The gourd pulsed in her hands, glowing faintly. "This is your weapon," the voice of her mother whispered. "Truth is power. Wield it, and the darkness will crumble." Nnenna returned home that night, her eyes blazing with a new fire. She had more than whispers now. She had truth. And with truth, she would shake the village to its bones. The village of Umudim slept under the lull of crickets and rustling palm fronds, until screams shattered the night. Flames erupted from Ogbuefi's compound, licking the sky in orange fury. Villagers poured out with buckets, but the fire burned too hot, too fast. Nnenna arrived breathless, her wrapper soaked with sweat. The old man was nowhere in sight. She fell to her knees calling his name. Then, from behind the compound, she heard a cough. Ogbefi stumbled out, his staff broken, his skin blistered but alive. "They came again," he gasped. "They don't want the truth reaching the people." Nnenna helped him up, fury rising like smoke. This was no accident. It was war. The stool, the gourd, and the whispers in her wrapper had disturbed the powerful. And now they were striking back. She knew it wouldn't end here. That night, she wrapped the gourd in silk and hid it inside the shrine. If they wanted to silence her, they'd have to face what her mother once faced, and fail again. Chief Okori summoned the elders to a secret gathering beneath the sacred Iroko tree. They sat in a circle, dressed in dark wrappers, cowries lining their arms. No drummers, no wine, just tension and secrets. "She has stirred the river, awakened the bones, and found the gourd," Chief Okori growled. "The bloodline is alive again. If we don't stop her now, the people will remember what we did." Elder Mbakwe, the oldest among them, sighed. "We silenced Ugoma once. Why not do the same to her child?" Another elder shook his head. "She has the book of names. If she completes the rites, the spirits will protect her. Not even our oaths will shield us." Okori clenched his fist. "Then we must act before the next moon, before she sits on the stool." Far away at the edge of the shrine, Nnenna listened. She had followed the whispers that led her here, and now every word had confirmed it. They had killed her mother, and they were planning to kill her too. But this time the spirits were watching. The annual Festival of Masks was meant to honor the ancestors, but this year it felt like a battlefield wrapped in celebration. The village square gleamed with bright fabrics, talking drums echoed through the air, and masquerades danced in dizzying circles. Nnenna walked through the crowd in a white wrapper, her face unpainted. Every step she took was watched. Children ran past her, laughing, unaware of the war brewing beneath the surface. The gourd was hidden beneath her wrapper, glowing faintly with heat. The book of names clung to her side. Suddenly, a tall masquerade stopped dancing and stared at her. Then it dropped to one knee and bowed. The crowd gasped. "She carries the voice of the ancestors," the masquerade proclaimed. "The bloodline walks again." The drums stopped. Silence fell. Eyes turned to Chief Okori, who rose slowly, masking his rage with a smile. "Let the ancestors guide us," he said. But Nnenna could feel it. Beneath his words, behind his smile, he was planning something. The Festival of Masks had become a masquerade of deception, and the final dance was yet to begin. Ogbefi, though weakened, led Nnenna to a sacred cave hidden beyond the boundary of the village. There, inside the cool shadows, lay a stone tablet marked with carvings older than memory. It pulsed with energy as she approached. "This is the Whispering Stone," he said. "It remembers every truth denied, every vow broken." Nnenna placed her palm on the stone. Visions flooded her mind, her mother's trials, the poisoning, the lies whispered to cover up the truth. She saw elders burning scrolls, hiding artifacts, silencing the priesthood to keep their grip on power. Tears streamed down her face. "If the people hear this," Nnenna said, "they will rise." Ogbefi nodded. "But it must be spoken aloud before the stool, during the Rite of Echoes." Nnenna knew what that meant. She had to call the village together, and she had to survive until then. The truth had waited 17 years beneath the wrapper. Now it was time for the village to hear it, no longer as whispers, but as thunder. Nnenna returned to the village with fire in her heart. She called for a public gathering at the village square to share the truth before the stool of judgment. She sent messengers to every compound, invoking the ancestral right to speak. By law, no one could deny her once the summons was made. But that night as she slept, a shadow crept into her hut. A blade gleamed in the moonlight. The figure raised it, then froze. The wrapper tightened around Nnenna like a living shield, glowing with a blue flame. The figure screamed and fled, arms burning. Nnenna awoke, gasping, realizing the spirits were now fully awake. and protective. In the morning, she found a note pinned to her door. "If you speak, you die." She stared at it calmly and tied her wrapper tighter. Let them threaten. Let them try. Her mother had bled for silence. She would bleed, if necessary, for truth. The stool was waiting, and so was justice. The day of reckoning arrived. The villagers gathered beneath the ancient baobab tree, where the sacred stool stood waiting. Every eye in Umudim was fixed on Nnenna as she stepped forward, clad in a shimmering white wrapper adorned with cowries and sacred symbols. Her hair was braided with red thread, markings of a priestess in ascension. Chief Okari sat with the elders, trying to mask his unease. The people murmured as Nnenna climbed the stool, holding the glowing gourd in one hand and the book of names in the other. She looked into the crowd and spoke, her voice steady. "I am Nnenna, daughter of Ugoma, seer of waters. I speak today not from pride, but from the mouth of truth long sealed by fear." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Nnenna raised the gourd, and the sky darkened for a moment. The air trembled as whispers, actual voices, floated from beneath her wrapper. They echoed through the crowd, each one a name, each one a story. The villagers wept. Many remembered Ugoma. Some had doubted the rumors. Now the truth danced before them, undeniable. And the elders? They sat frozen, because the ancestors were no longer just whispers. They had become a voice too loud to silence. A silence fell so heavy, even the birds ceased their songs. Then from the elders' bench, Elder Mbakwe stood. His hands trembled, and tears lined his wrinkled cheeks. "I was there," he said, voice shaking. "I didn't stop them. We feared her power. We feared the future she saw." He fell to his knees. The villagers gasped. One by one, elders began to confess. Secrets long buried poured out like a broken dam. How they manipulated dreams, burned scrolls, and poisoned the shrine with lies. Chief Okari remained still, jaw clenched, fists tight. Nnenna listened, not with bitterness, but with purpose. Every truth released from their mouths was another chain shattered from her bloodline. The spirits in her wrapper hummed with approval. She stepped down from the stool and handed a basket of white cowries to the people. "Let the innocent cast cowries for healing. Let the guilty cast theirs for judgment." The crowd obeyed, and when it was Chief Okari's turn, he refused to take one. "I do not answer to a girl and her dead mother," he spat. But the gourd in Nnenna's hand pulsed, and the ground beneath him cracked. The baobab tree groaned as if awakened from slumber. Wind howled through the square, and the gourd in Nnenna's hand rose into the air, spinning before bursting into golden light. From that light emerged the spirit of Ugoma. She walked toward Chief Okari, her feet not touching the earth. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of storms. "You killed me with poison and lies," she said, "but truth does not stay buried." Okari dropped to his knees. His pride, once a fortress, crumbled beneath the eyes of the people. In the spirit he thought he had silenced. "I loved you," he whispered, "but you chose the gods over me." "And I still do," Ugoma replied, fading like smoke. Okari collapsed. His cowrie was never cast. The people turned their backs to him, a punishment worse than death in Umudim. He would live in isolation, his power stripped, his name tainted. Nnenna stood tall, the wrapper on her waist calm at last. Days later, the shrines reopened, cleaned, rebuilt, and rededicated to the priestesses of old. The people came bearing gifts, yams, goats, palm oil, and kola nuts. Nnenna sat on the stool at the center, now fully clothed in her mother's ceremonial beads and regalia. She began the rite of remembrance, calling each name from the book aloud. As she did, spirits emerged, soft lights circling the shrine, humming songs only the sacred could hear. The river flowed brighter that day, as though the heavens had smiled upon the village once more. Ugbifi sat near the shrine, tears in his old eyes. "She has done it," he whispered. She remembered. Mama Uduak approached slowly, wrapped in black. She knelt before Nnenna, voice low. "Forgive me, I was afraid. of losing you, of the past. Nnenna took her hand. You kept me alive, but now I must live fully. Peace settled over the land, but Nnenna knew the journey wasn't over. The rapper still whispered, soft now, not urgent. It spoke of healing, of teaching, of passing on truth to those yet to come. The wrapper that once felt like a burden was now her crown. Tied snug around her waist, it held the voices of her foremothers, no longer trapped, but at peace. Nnenna stood before the village as the youngest high priestess in generations. She raised the staff of her mother before the people. Let no child walk without knowledge of where she comes from. Let no truth be buried under fear. The people shouted in agreement. Drums beat joyfully. Children danced, mimicking her stance. The festival that followed was not just a celebration, it was a cleansing. In her hut that night, she removed the wrapper gently and placed it on the stool. The voices inside whispered one last time, well done, YM. Then silence, not empty, fulfilled. Nnenna lay on her mat with a smile, knowing that the past had been honored, the present reclaimed, and the future reborn. The girl with the torn wrapper was no longer mystery. She was a legacy. Months passed, and word of Nnenna's rise spread beyond Umudim. From nearby villages, people came, some seeking healing, others truth. Mothers brought sick children, old men sought absolution, and young women knelt with tears, asking to be taught the path of the priestesses. Nnenna welcomed them all. She built a second shrine on the edge of the river, where those chosen by the spirits could begin their training. There, she passed on the book of names, copying it slowly by hand, page by page, as the original remained sealed beneath the baobab for safekeeping. One evening, a young girl named Ifeoma came to her, eyes wide, wearing a wrapper with markings Nnenna recognized. "Where did you get this?" she asked, touching the fabric. "My grandmother gave it to me before she died. She said it would find its own." The voices whispered again, now unfamiliar, but warm. Nnenna smiled. The legacy was spreading. The spirits were choosing again. During the next festival of masks, one particular masquerade moved differently. Its steps mirrored the sacred rhythm of the old priesthood. The drums slowed. The villagers watched, enchanted. Nnenna stood, sensing something beyond the physical. The masquerade removed its mask. Gasps followed. It was a woman. Ozomena, once thought dead, had been Ugoma's spiritual sister and fled after her murder. Now she returned from exile. "I have watched from afar," she said, bowing, "but I see now the child I feared lost has become the guide we need." The reunion was sacred. That night, Ozomena told Nnenna stories her mother had never finished telling. Rituals that had been lost were restored. The village became a living library of memory and restoration. Together, the two women redefined leadership, not through fear, but through truth and presence. One night, Nnenna was called into a dream unlike any she had experienced. A river, wider than any she had seen, flowed with blood and stars. At its center, a voice echoed, "To seal the legacy, you must let go." She woke knowing what it meant. The wrapper, the source of her strength and the resting place of her foremothers, had fulfilled its task. It was time to release it. Ogbuefi, now old and preparing to pass, helped her dig a sacred pit by the river. There, wrapped in fresh white cloth and prayers, Nnenna laid the wrapper to rest. The wind stirred, the water sparkled, and the ancestors sang. As she poured the libation, she felt a shift, not an end, but a beginning. The power was now inside her, not beneath her wrapper. And with that, the final trial was passed. To prevent the past from repeating, Nnenna formed the Council of Daughters, a circle of women chosen not by blood, but by spirit. Farmers, potters, widows, and girls from different walks of life took oaths under the moon to preserve truth, protect the vulnerable, and pass on sacred knowledge. Each member was given a cloth, not a wrapper of whispers, but one of wisdom. No magic, just memory. The council rebuilt shrines, revised customs, and erased rules that silenced women and mystics. Chief Okari remained alive, a shadow of himself wandering the village silently. Some pitied him. Nnenna did not hate him. but she never gave him her gaze. "Let those who broke truth live with it," she once said. "That is punishment enough." The council thrived, and from Umudim the message spread. The silence of women had ended. Years later, a storyteller sat under the baobab tree, with children gathered at her feet. "Do you know the tale of Nnenna the Rememberer?" she asked. A boy raised his hand. "She was the girl with the wrapper, right? The one who made spirits speak." The woman smiled. "Yes, but more than that, she was the one who listened." In the rebuilt shrine, now vibrant and alive, the stool remained. A new wrapper lay folded upon it, not enchanted but symbolic. A girl would sit on it one day, feel the call, and begin her journey. And in the wind, if one listened closely, the whispers still came, not as warnings, but as songs. Songs of a girl who turned fear into fire. A girl who rose from silence. A girl whose name would never be forgotten. Nnenna. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more timeless tales. See you next time.